You ever look back on some of your own personal history and you kind of just learn a little bit about yourself, or you reflect on it and you just kind of think, oh, that's interesting. I never really looked at it that way. Or you just draw something from it. Well, that happened to me thinking about Halloween. Halloween. I was looking at these two Halloween stories I'm about to share with you guys. The first story I remembered a few months ago when someone asked me, when was the first time you got punched in the face? So here's a story about the first time I got punched in the face. Halloween, I'm 13 years old, grade 7. With six of us total, 6 friends. We're going around trick-or-treating. It's already really dark out. 3 of my friends were on the football team. I wanted to play football. My mom wouldn't let me. She's a nurse. She was afraid I hurt my neck. So 3 of my friends dressed up like football players, got their helmets, pads on. The rest of us are just dressed up like random things. Poor person outfits, you know. And we're going around trick-or-treating. And while we're trick-or-treating, there's these 2 guys that are following us around, looking at us. And, you know, they're bigger kids, like 16, 17 years old. And you can kind of tell that, you know, what they're thinking. But you don't really want to just acknowledge it. So you kind of keep going about your trick-or-treating. So we get some candy from one house, and we're walking down the driveway, and I'm last. And one of these big kids steps right in front of me. So he steps between the other 5, and then boom, steps in front of me and stops me from walking. Puts his hand around my pillowcase full of candy. And he says, let go or I'll punch you in the face. And I say, no. And he says, I'm going to punch you in the face. And I grip tight and I try to pull away. And I say, no, this is mine. And boom, without hesitation, the guy starts punching me. So he punches me once. First time getting hit, I see like white. Kind of dazed a little bit, and then I feel a second hit, and I think he swept me with his feet, tripped me, and I fell to the ground, and he started walking away. But I didn't let go. My hand never let go, and he started walking, so I dragged across the ground a couple feet, and then I felt like a kick in my belly, and then a couple tugs, and then he kind of jerked it really hard, and it broke out of my hand, and he started walking away. I stood up, no more candy, face hurts, pissed off. The other guy, there's 2 of them. One of them, like the 16-year-old who hit me, like he was much bigger than me. Like I hadn't hit puberty or anything yet. This guy, like, might as well have been an adult to me. And his other friend isn't quite as big as him, and he's kind of like, hey, that kid didn't give it up very easily. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I kind of feel bad. And he's like, yeah. So they turn around and they give me the candy back. Walks up to me and he's like, here, man, like, you didn't give that up too easy. You think you deserve to keep it. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, this jerk just punched me in the face. You know what I mean? Like, am I going to say thank you? So anyway, so he hands it to me, and they walk away, and then we just continue trick-or-treating. And all I remember is looking at my friends and thinking, like, what a bunch of cowards. I can't depend on these guys. There's 6 of us. 3 of them are wearing football equipment, helmet, pads. They could just run up. Like, what's he going to do? Punch him in the face? No, they're wearing helmets. They could headbutt him. And they didn't do anything. They just stood there and watched. And I just remember feeling so disappointed in them. They're my friends since kindergarten. And it's just a really disappointing moment. But at least I learned about myself that, you know, I wouldn't give it up easy. I stood up. I said no. I was prepared to take a beating. So that's the first time I got punched in the face. The other story I just remembered recently as well is I actually got a message from this person's mother on Instagram, because she was saying, you know, she likes a lot of my content. She likes my posts and appreciates me standing up. And I was like, that's interesting, because if I tell you the story of how I met your son, you'll be very proud of him in a weird way, in almost a reckless way. So 3rd year university, Mount Western, Halloween party. And one of my friends calls me outside because she thinks a fight's going to break out and one of her friends is going to get hurt. So she's like asking me to go out there and help him, as he's surrounded by a lot of people. So I go outside. There's like 30 to 40 people on the street in front of this house. And there's a car trying to get by. And there's a bunch of yelling. People are chirping each other. And this car is trying to get by. So it honks a couple times. And then this guy who my friend wanted me to go help was being a real dick. He walked up to the car, passenger side. I guess they were yelling something at each other, and he punched the guy in the face. So all of a sudden the car revs once and then it starts driving and people kind of blast out of the way. They're moving out of the way and this car just parks very quickly and 6 people get out of it. There's 2 in the trunk. This is a little hatchback. And these 2 people hop out of the back and then there's, a whole bunch in the back seat, the hatch, the front. They all hop out and they grab baseball bats and they start swinging at people. Okay. The guy who punched the person in the passenger seat, one of his friends was standing next to him. He took a baseball bat to the head and it was like a yard sale. The guy flew up, fell on his back. He looked pretty serious, like would not want to be that guy. And these guys started swinging their bats at people. And I was still kind of far away because I had just walked out of the house. I was just analyzing the situation and boom, this all happened. And as that guy gets hit and the one guy falls on the ground, you see these guys starting to swing at people. And this one huge dude runs out and starts like knocking guys around, pushing on them. And you see someone come up behind him with a baseball bat, smack him in the back. Okay. Now, this guy was big. These 6 guys holding the baseball bats were all average-sized dudes. And this other guy was a big dude. He was like 6'2", 6'3", 250. He's one of the cheerleaders from Western. Western has like one of the best cheerleading squads in North America. A lot of huge, strong dudes. We wish some of them would have played on the football team with us. Bodybuilder Ben Pekulski was one of them. But this guy, Andrew St. Bernard was his name. Hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he ran out there and he was him versus 6 guys. So as soon as he starts shoving people, one guy takes a crack at his back with a baseball bat. And as soon as I saw that, something happened where I just instinctively ran out there. The guy who hit him in the back, I put my arm around him and I like tripped him and threw him on the ground, gave him a shot quickly. And the next thing I know, I'm standing with Andrew in between all these guys. And he's yelling, "If you're going to hit me, you better kill me." He's like losing it. He's going crazy and he's dressed like Sting. So he looks pretty crazy, right? And these guys were hesitating. There's 6 of them with baseball bats, and they're scared to hit us because the guy behind me who's yelling at them is just so intense. So they slowly like kind of shuffle and get towards their car, and then they all get in and they zip away, and Andrew like smacks the top of the car as they're driving by, and I was like, wow, that's intense. And I was like, so I was telling that to this guy's mom. I'm like, that's how I met your son over a decade ago. Like, that's how we met, So I just thought that was very interesting. But I'm looking back at this story and I realized that this guy was reckless, right? Like 6 guys with baseball bats and this guy just runs out to protect all these other people who he may or may not know that well. And he takes them all on. I was like, that's wild. And I was like, I did the same thing though to him. I saw him getting outnumbered, so I ran to his side. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's interesting. I could have been a bystander. I could have done nothing like everyone else. Every single other person at this party did nothing except for us 2. I probably would have done nothing if he hadn't have jumped in, but as soon as I saw him for some reason standing up and then get hit in the back, I instinctively ran out and joined beside him. So I just found that really interesting because in the first story, I realized if something is right or to defend my own property or to defend myself, I'm not afraid to take a couple hits when I know the odds are against me. This guy was way bigger than me. There's no way I hadn't even hit puberty yet. I was a scrawny little kid. There's no way I could have beat him up. And I didn't even try to fight. I just took a beating. But the point is I wasn't afraid to. I was like, no, this is my candy. And I'm like, I'm not letting go. And I took a couple hits. So for myself, I'm willing to stick up. But then I realized with that second story, it's like I see someone else standing up and I know that they're in the right and they're outnumbered. I'm not willing to be a bystander instinctively. Like I wasn't able to just be a bystander and watch and, sit where it was safe. I still chose to instinctively get in there and help him out. And I'm kind of proud of that. Like, I think that's a cool instinct to have. Maybe it's reckless because I could have gotten hurt in both instances. Fortunately, I didn't. So it is definitely reckless. But looking back at it, I'm proud of that characteristic of myself. And I think right now, like when I reflect on it, I think we are in a moment right now where things are happening that we can be bystanders. Are you a bystander right now? And in the future, when you look back at this moment, what are you going to think of yourself? Are you going to be proud of how you acted? Or are you just going to stand on the porch from afar and watch people get hit with baseball bats when you know that what is happening to them is wrong? And then I think of like the children right now. Children cannot defend themselves. What are we doing to our children? And when the future comes and your children are looking at you, your children or other children are looking at you and they're analyzing how you behaved. How did you behave when the rollout came and they wanted to mandate these things on us kids, us 5 to 11-year-olds? Where were you? What did you do, Dad? Mom? Did you speak up? Did you yell? Or were you just a bystander?